If you're watching this video, chances are you've tried everything to beat procrastination. Apps, planners, productivity hacks, motivation videos, and yet here you are, still struggling to take consistent action on the things that matter most. What if I told you that everything you've been taught about overcoming procrastination is wrong, and that the real solution lies in a mental reprogramming technique discovered by Napoleon Hill over 80 years ago? The brutal truth is that procrastination isn't a time management problem or a lack of willpower. It's a programming problem in your subconscious mind that's been running on autopilot, sabotaging your success without you even realizing it. While everyone else is fighting the symptoms, Hill's revolutionary approach attacks the root cause by literally rewiring how your brain responds to opportunities and challenges. In the next few minutes, you're going to discover the exact mental reprogramming formula that turned ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. And by the end of this video, you'll have the tools to transform procrastination from your biggest enemy into your greatest motivator. But here's the catch. This only works if you're ready to challenge everything you think you know about productivity and success. Most people think procrastination is simply about being lazy or lacking willpower. But Napoleon Hill discovered something far more profound in his decades of studying successful individuals. The real culprit isn't laziness. It's our subconscious mind protecting us from what it perceives as potential failure or rejection. When you understand that your brain is actually trying to keep you safe by avoiding tasks that might lead to disappointment, you can begin to rewire this protective mechanism. Think about it this way. Every time you put off starting that business, writing that book, or making that important phone call, your subconscious is whispering, "What if you're not good enough?" This mental programming often starts in childhood when we experience criticism or failure, and our mind learned to associate action with pain. Hill observed that the most successful people weren't those who never felt fear. They were the ones who recognized this pattern and consciously chose to act despite it. The fascinating part is that procrastination actually requires more mental energy than taking action. When you're avoiding a task, part of your mind is constantly thinking about it, creating stress and anxiety. Hill called this negative mental programming. Your thoughts are literally programming your mind for failure. But here's where it gets interesting. If your mind can be programmed to avoid action, it can just as easily be reprogrammed to crave action and success. Napoleon Hill discovered that every successful person he studied had mastered what he called mental reprogramming, the ability to consciously override their default thought patterns and install new success-oriented programming. This isn't just positive thinking. It's a systematic approach to rewiring your neural pathways. The formula involves 3 critical steps: recognition, interruption, and replacement. When you catch yourself in a procrastination pattern, you must first recognize it without judgment, then immediately interrupt the thought pattern, and finally replace it with a predetermined, success-focused thought. The key insight Hill shared was that most people try to fight procrastination with willpower alone, which is like trying to win a war with a single soldier. Instead, successful individuals create what Hill termed mental allies, specific phrases, visualizations, and physical actions that automatically trigger productive behavior. For example, when Henry Ford felt the urge to postpone a difficult decision, he would immediately stand up, look in the mirror, and say, "Ford, what would the most successful version of you do right now?" This simple ritual reprogrammed his automatic response from avoidance to action. What's truly remarkable is how quickly this reprogramming can take effect. Hill documented cases where individuals completely transformed their productivity patterns in just 30 days of consistent mental reprogramming. The secret lies in understanding that your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between reality and vividly imagined experiences. When you consistently visualize yourself as someone who takes immediate action, your brain begins to accept this as your new identity and automatically generates behaviors that match this self-image. Here's something that will shock you about why you procrastinate. It's not because you're lazy, it's because your goals are too vague for your subconscious mind to process. Napoleon Hill discovered that people with definite purpose, crystal clear, specific objectives, rarely struggled with procrastination, while those with general goals constantly delayed action. Your brain is like a GPS system. It needs precise coordinates to navigate effectively. When you say, "I want to be successful," your subconscious doesn't know where to direct your energy, so it defaults to inaction. Hill studied Andrew Carnegie, who never procrastinated on business decisions, and found that Carnegie had developed what he called definiteness of purpose. Instead of saying, "I want to build a successful steel company," Carnegie's purpose was, "I will create the most efficient steel production system in America by reducing costs by 20% within 2 years, enabling me to undercut competitors while maintaining 15% profit margins." Notice how specific and measurable this purpose is. There's no room for confusion or delay because the path forward is crystal clear. The magic happens when you apply this principle to your daily tasks. Instead of, "I should work on my project," try, "I will complete the first draft of Chapter 3, which consists of 1,500 words about customer acquisition strategies. By 2 p.m. today, your subconscious mind suddenly has a clear target and begins generating the focus and energy needed to hit that target. Hill observed that definiteness of purpose acts like a mental magnet, automatically attracting the resources, ideas, and opportunities needed to accomplish your specific objective. Napoleon Hill identified 6 basic fears that drive procrastination. Fear of poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death. But here's the breakthrough insight that changed everything for the successful people he studied. These fears aren't actually about external circumstances. They're about losing control or being exposed as inadequate. When you procrastinate on starting that business, you're not really afraid of failure. You're afraid of discovering you might not be as capable as you thought. This revelation is liberating because it shifts your focus from avoiding external outcomes to mastering internal responses. The most successful individuals Hill interviewed had developed what he called fear immunity, not the absence of fear, but the ability to act in spite of it. Thomas Edison, for instance, didn't overcome his fear of criticism. He simply decided that his commitment to invention was stronger than his fear of what others might think. Edison would actually use his fear as fuel, telling himself, "The critics are watching, so I'd better create something that will silence them forever." This mental reframe transformed fear from a paralyzing force into a motivating energy source. The practical application of this principle is surprisingly simple, yet profoundly effective. Whenever you feel the urge to procrastinate, pause and ask yourself, what specifically am I afraid will happen if I take action right now? Usually you'll discover the fear is either completely irrational or manageable. Then ask the follow-up question, what am I guaranteeing will happen if I don't take action? This mental exercise reveals that inaction is actually the riskier choice, breaking the fear procrastination cycle and naturally motivating you toward productive action. Napoleon Hill discovered that successful people don't rely on motivation to take action. They create what he called automatic success habits that operate independently of how they feel on any given day. The secret lies in understanding that your brain is constantly forming neural pathways based on repetition, and you can deliberately engineer these pathways to support instant action instead of procrastination. Hill found that it takes approximately 21 days of consistent behavior to establish a new neural pathway, but only 7 days of consistent action to begin weakening old procrastination patterns. The most powerful technique Hill documented was the 5-minute rule used by many successful individuals. Instead of trying to complete entire projects in one session, they committed to working on important tasks for just 5 minutes immediately upon waking. This seemingly small commitment bypasses the psychological resistance that causes procrastination, because 5 minutes feels manageable to your subconscious mind. However, Hill observed that once people started, they typically continued working far beyond the 5-minute minimum, because taking action generates momentum and motivation, not the other way around. What makes this approach revolutionary is how it transforms your identity at a subconscious level. When you consistently take immediate action, even in small ways, your brain begins to categorize you as someone who gets things done rather than someone who procrastinates. Hill noted that this identity shift is so powerful that people often report feeling physically uncomfortable when they're not being productive, because inaction no longer matches their self-image. The habit of immediate action becomes as natural and automatic as brushing your teeth. Here's a mind-blowing discovery from Napoleon Hill's research that most people completely overlook. Your physical environment is constantly programming your subconscious mind for either action or procrastination. And successful people deliberately design their spaces to trigger immediate productivity. Hill found that people who struggled with procrastination typically had cluttered, disorganized environments that created mental overwhelm and decision fatigue. In contrast, high achievers created what Hill called success environments, spaces specifically designed to eliminate distractions and inspire focused action. The psychology behind this is fascinating. Your brain makes thousands of micro-decisions throughout the day based on environmental cues, and each decision either supports or undermines your productivity. When your workspace is cluttered with unrelated items, your subconscious mind is constantly processing these distractions, leaving less mental energy for important tasks. Hill documented how Henry Ford's office contained only items directly related to his current, most important project, eliminating any visual cues that might trigger procrastination or scattered thinking. But here's where it gets really interesting. Successful people don't just organize their physical space, they engineer emotional triggers into their environment. Hill observed that productive individuals would place visual reminders of their goals, inspiring quotes or symbols of their why in strategic locations where they'd see them throughout the day. These environmental cues act as automatic motivation boosters, constantly reinforcing the mental programming that supports immediate action. What's your environment telling your subconscious mind about who you are and what you're capable of achieving? The strategies you've just learned aren't theoretical concepts. They're battle-tested mental reprogramming techniques that have transformed millions of lives over the past century. But here's what separates those who succeed from those who remain stuck. Successful people don't just consume information, they immediately implement it. Right now, your brain is either reinforcing old procrastination patterns or building new success pathways based on what you do in the next 24 hours. This channel is dedicated to sharing these timeless success principles in ways that create real transformation, not just temporary motivation. Every video is designed to give you practical tools that compound over time, building the kind of unstoppable momentum that turns dreams into reality. The question isn't whether these techniques work. Hill's research and countless success stories prove they do. The question is whether you're committed enough to your own success to actually apply them. If you're serious about reprogramming your mind for success and want to continue learning these powerful mental techniques, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell right now. Your future self is counting on the decisions you make today, and every moment you hesitate is another day spent living below your potential. The choice is yours. Will 2025 be the year you finally break free from procrastination, or will it be another year of the same old patterns? Let me know in the comments what you're going to implement first from today's video.